as a white woman who leads a black-led sport and celebrated here, I want to show a light on black women. They don't get the media coverage that they deserve. WNBA last season, the postseason awards, 80% of the winners were black, but they got half the amount of coverage as the white athletes. So I think it's time for change.
So go ahead and enjoy women's sports like you would any other sports, because they are sports.
Yes.
Except you, Harrison Butker. We don't need you.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you just witnessed were a couple of highlights from previous years of ESPN's annual celebration of Wiener. Now, they prefer to call it the ESPY Awards, but that's just a fancy name for celebrating the woke wiener. Over the last few years, the ESPYs have been a dedication to diversity. It's been a celebration of inclusion. Unless, of course, you're a white dude like Harrison Butker who believes in traditional marriage. In that case, you're not invited to ESPN's Butt Bongo Festival. Girl, that Harrison dude is infected with toxic masculinity. You're not going to believe this. He thinks men should be married to women, and his wife relies on him for emotional support instead of an emotional support goat. Ew, that's gross. For years, the ESPYs have been the supreme turd of polished turds. Apologies for white privilege, fabricated stories of mythical racism. In one extreme case, I seem to remember ESPN honoring a dude as an elite female athlete. The inspiration of prepubescent boys, Meg Rapinoe, she was given the Courage Award for her courageous fight for equal pay. Meg was honored for fighting for money that she hadn't earned and didn't deserve. Us normal people, we call that a subsidy or socialism, but according to the worldwide leader in woke, that's courage. 2020, the ESPYs were hosted by Meg Rapinoe, vomit, and Curly Sue Bird, double vomit. 2021, the celebration was hosted by fake gangster Anthony Mackie, better known as Papa Doc from the movie 8 Mile. This guy's gangster? His real name is Clarence. Last year, Serena Williams hosted this celebration of inclusion by making sure that Harrison Butker was excluded from the ceremony. For the better part of 5 years, the ESPYs have recorded record low ratings. And it's not hard to see why, but this year, ESPN decided to go in a different direction. Instead of hiring hosts who lack the ability to be humorous when the jokes are written for them, instead of hiring hosts who resemble the trio of huge embarrassing failures who have destroyed the once profitable industry of late-night comedy. Instead of hiring hosts who meet the stringent standards of diversity while failing to meet a single standard when it comes to actually being entertaining. This year, ESPN hired Shane Gillis to host the show. Well, KC, who in the hell is Shane Gillis? Shane Gillis is a comedian, a real comedian. I'm not talking about an emotional disaster like Jim Kimmel, who chooses to identify as a comedian. Shane Gillis is an actual comedian. When you hire a comedian to host a show like the ESPYs, it comes with risk. Obviously, normal people will be fine with it. Normal people know how to take a joke and express laughter instead of fake outrage. But when you hire someone like Shane Gillis, you run the risk of offending professional victims, which is exactly what happened last night as Shane Gillis humiliated the WNBA while also hurting the feelings of ESPN's resident doofus, Sarah Spain. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel is in the description below. Today on the second channel, going to be talking about the record low ratings for the All-Star game in Major League Baseball. Now, just to be clear, I will not be criticizing baseball. Matter of fact, I have been impressed with Major League Baseball lately, but I will be explaining why these ratings are further proof that all-star games are a thing of the past and they need to be canceled. So if you haven't already, click the link in the description below, subscribe to the second channel. 10, 15, 20 years ago, Shane Gillis would have been described as a stand-up comedian. In this era of using your victim status to seek validation from strangers, Shane Gillis is described as a controversial comedian, or by some as a racist asshole. 6 years ago, he was hired by Lorne Michaels as a new cast member on Saturday Night Live. Before he could even make his debut, NBC demanded that he be fired. Why? Because an old clip resurfaced of Shane Gillis making fun of Chinatown in Manhattan. "We can't hire him! This man is racist!" We used to call that pushing boundaries. We used to call this comedy. You see, Shane Gillis, he doesn't just make fun of Asian people. Shane Gillis makes fun of all people. That's what comedians do. They make fun of everyone. Fortunately, being fired by NBC, it didn't hurt his career, and Shane Gillis, he's done very well for himself. Last night, he was given the impossible task of returning the ESPYs to normalcy. He was given the task of pissing off the wanker spankers and making the ESPYs appealing to normal people. During his opening monologue, Shane Gillis was talking about the big stars in the WNBA. According to ESPN, this league is filled with huge stars! Bob Griner, Angel Reese and her dozens of aliases, Bree Stu and her point guard Hugh. This league is amazing! How many times have we heard that the WNBA isn't just about one player? How many times have we heard that there are big stars throughout this dump? Basically, how many times have we been lied to? With the ESPYs being an ESPN production, I'm assuming that most people in the crowd, they choose to identify as WNBA fans. I'm sure most of their social media feeds are filled with their love of pretend basketball. Last night, Shane Gillis, he decided to test their love of make-believe. He honored four-time WNBA All-Star Brittany Hicks. As he was honoring this legendary elite athlete, the crowd, they started to cheer. There was just one problem, though. One tiny problem. Brittany Hicks does not exist. Watch for yourself.
Four-time WNBA All-Star Brittany Hicks is here. Give it up for Brittany, everybody. I'm joking around. That's my friend's wife. I knew none of you knew WNBA players.
The best jokes are based in reality. The reason this joke was actually a joke, especially when compared to the emotional monologues that we see from Jim Kimmel, which are based in the world of make-believe, the reason this joke was actually a joke, it was based in truth. The vast majority of people have no idea who WNBA players are. The only people that recognize them outside of their families are the police officers who walk by their photos every morning on the missing persons report. Normal people can take a joke like this and do what you're supposed to do. Laugh. But unsurprisingly, the woke crowd at the ESPYs last night, they didn't find Shane Gillis funny. At one point, he even had to tell them to lighten up. Watch for yourself.
Shedeur Sanders had his jersey number retired at Colorado this year, and people are saying it's because of nepotism, and it's not. It's because he went 13-12 over his career, and he almost won the Alamo Bowl. Definitely not nepotism, right? All right. Caitlin Clark, she and I have a lot in common. We're both whites from the Midwest who have nailed a bunch of threes. All right, there you go. Lighten up a little. This is not serious. We'll see about this one. When Caitlin Clark retires from the WNBA, she's going to work at a Waffle House so she can continue doing what she loves most, fist fighting black women. Megan Rapinoe could not make it tonight. Nice. No, we're going to pretend she's a good time. All right.
It wasn't just some in the crowd that were offended by Shane Gillis last night. ESPN's resident expert in victimization and fake outrage, she was appalled by this egregious and offensive monologue. Headline at Awful Announcing: Sarah Spain takes issue with Shane Gillis' ESPY monologue. Now, I know what some of you are asking. Casey, who in the hell is Sarah Spain? Sarah launched her career in the mainstream sports media by auctioning herself off as a date to the Super Bowl. The bidding started at a peso and ended with Sarah Spain offering to pay someone to be her date. Now, even though she failed to get the attention of lonely men by asking them to not only pay for Super Bowl tickets, but to also spend the evening around an insufferable date, Sarah did manage to capture the attention of ESPN. She became a recurring panelist on Around the Horn, where she was partially responsible for tanking ratings and leading to the show's cancellation. If I remember correctly, I believe ESPN also gave her a show on ESPN Radio. Keyword, gave. As you guys know, ESPN Radio used to be the burial grounds for woke welfare collectors at ESPN who lacked the ability to draw an audience and who lacked talent. They buried them on ESPN Radio where they knew no one would hear them. Today, ESPN has hidden Sarah Spain on something called ESPNW. She's guaranteed not to embarrass ESPN at this dump where she is responsible for covering women's sports. Most people aren't watching women's sports, so they're damn sure not reading about them. Sarah, she witnessed this travesty last night and she expressed her fake outrage on Twitter. Now notice, I didn't say that she expressed her fake outrage on Blue Sky. Sarah was so pissed off, she expressed her outrage on Twitter where people would actually see it. In a year of unprecedented growth in women's sports, ESPN has this asshole making fun of women. He also made fun of my Lord and risen King, Meg Rapinoe. This asshole is not only racist, he's a misogynist. Why is my subsidizer at ESPN doing this? We should be celebrating women and the men pretending to be them. I hate to break it to Sarah Spain, but no one gives a shit about your feelings. No one cares that you were offended. This is exactly what we have got to get away from. I feel bad for these kids and Gen Z LGBT. That monologue from Shane Gillis last night, that was tame compared to the comedy from the 90s and 2000s. Believe it or not, we used to be able to make fun of people without people getting offended. There used to be these things called roast. It was almost considered an honor. Today, everyone wants to be a victim. People want sympathy and validation for their feelings. Oh, he hurt my feelings. I thought Shane Gillis was great last night. That was not an easy performance. He was working a tough crowd. Woke robots are not programmed to laugh. They're only programmed with two emotions, anger and misery. But I think most normal people enjoyed it. Now, there were still some questionable moments at the ESPYs last night. Simone Biles' speech was strange. ESPN had a balding beauty accept an award for Caitlin Clark where they portrayed Caitlin Clark as the villain in the WNBA, which is even further proof that they're not watching the WNBA. And it was also offensive to Angel Reese, who claims to be the villain of pretend basketball. But overall, The ESPYs, I thought, were definitely an improvement over what we have seen the last few years. But give me your thoughts on this. What did you think of the ESPYs last night? Was Shane Gillis an improvement? Were you surprised that the spankers were offended? Let me know. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys later.